Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I mean, we just watched the episode, and I didn't know that there was a car crash that ended it.
I
So,
I forgot about that myself, but I do not think that is the mid-season finale. I think next week is
I think you might be right.
because I believe there's some. Oh, anyway, the thing I was going to tell you that they. Or should we just go in order because we have to do this index and all that?
Yeah, maybe we should do
Let's
that.
do
Should
the
we?
let's do the index and then we can just jump in.
Let some people know that. Okay, so big reversals of fortune in this episode. We had a lot of people people get caught, and once we talk about the episode, we're gonna have a guest come on who is integral to the sort of
Integral.
deep emotional heart of the Prison Break story. And if you don't know why, it's probably time to go back and watch the episode before we spoil everything.
Right. Major spoilers.
Major spoilers. So go now.
We can say who our guest is, right? It's fine. It's not.
Yeah, go for it.
It's Tony Denison, who plays Aldo Burrows, father to Michael and Lincoln. The bastard that hit me in the head with a fire extinguisher in season 1.
Yeah.
We had a great talk with him, so that's going to be part of this episode.
And there might
2.
even be recipe bonus content.
Oh, yeah, that's
because he can really cook. And he can
really
cook
cook.
my favorite dish, which is eggplant parm, and I'm very excited to try his recipe out.
I really don't like eggplant. Does that mean I don't like eggplant parmesan?
No, because it's, it's not.
I thought he was saying eggplant lasagna. Oh, it's eggplant parmesan.
It's eggplant parm, and but eggplant parm does not taste like eggplant.
Okay. He was
It
talking
tastes
about
like-
putting it in the sun and getting rid of the...
Yeah, it tastes like Parmesan and red sauce. It's super good.
Okay. It's a delivery system for cheese and sauce.
That's exactly right. Like eating an artichoke. You're not eating an artichoke.
eating
You're
butter.
just putting garlic butter in your
Butter
face.
and salt. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah. Okay. Callies Index. We haven't mentioned this yet. Episode 212 is called Disconnect. It was written by Nick Santora and Karen Usher, which is rare for the show. And it was directed by Karen Gaviola, making it the first episode of the show directed by a woman. Karen would go on to direct one more episode another episode in season 3, and then 2 in season 4. Season 5, we would have one more female director on the show, the brilliant Maya Varillo. And that is the whole list, because that's what the business was like back then.
Wow.
But Karen also went on to direct you in Private Practice.
Yeah, she did a few times, I think.
She did. She directed me again in Colony. She's badass. In fact, we should have her on the show for her season 3 episode if she's not too busy taking over the world. Disconnect, this episode, first aired November 20th, 2006 at 8 p.m. We were up against A Charlie Brown Thanksgiving on ABC, Deal or No Deal on NBC, and How I Met Your Mother on CBS. And we whooped Charlie Brown's heartwarming animated, but with a rating of 9.62 million live viewers, which actually was the highest rated episode of the season so far.
Poor Charlie. Episode recap.
Yep.
We left off with Michael face to face with his father, Aldo Burrows. Michael reveals that growing up in foster care after Aldo had abandoned them, his foster father was abusive, and that Aldo found the foster father and killed him to save Michael. Then Aldo tells Michael about the tape that can exonerate Lincoln and that they won't need to run anymore if they can get this tape. And the tape, he thinks, is in Sarah's hands. Yeah. But Mahone catches up to them, and as the father and sons escape, Aldo is fatally shot. After burying their father, Michael and Lincoln decide to stay and fight instead of running. Sucre takes the plane out of the country alone. Sucre takes the plane out of the country alone, Mahone failing to stop him, but Mahone does eventually apprehend the brothers by ramming his car into them.
Apprehend is maybe a soft sell on that one.
Meanwhile, Dr. Sarah manages to escape from Kellerman with her sneaky little ways, who had been told to kill her. Kim basically cancels Kellerman as a result, having him erased, essentially. And wiping out any evidence of Kellerman's existence or working for the government. Elsewhere, Bellick is in big trouble. He tries lying to the police until the threatening message he left for Geary is found. He gets him arrested for Geary's murder. Meanwhile, C-Note's family is on the run. His wife realizes they don't have their daughter's medications. With no other choice, she goes to a drugstore. She is spotted and arrested.
In disappointing racism news, on November 17th at the Laugh Factory, which is a stand-up comedy club in Hollywood. Yeah, the actor Michael Richards, who was famous for playing Kramer on Seinfeld, launched into a racist rant at some hecklers, and that rant has since become infamous. And in memoriam news, the same day that the show aired on November 20th, Robert Altman died. If you don't know Robert Altman, you're in for a treat. He was a giant of a filmmaker who made a brilliant career of overlapping dialogue and sprawling casts and a more naturalistic camera style that changed filmmaking forever.
Absolutely. Also in film news, on November 14th, Casino Royale premiered in London, marking Daniel Craig's debut as the new James Bond film. Earned $616 million, the highest grossing Bond film at that point in the franchise until Skyfall. In music news, Jay-Z dropped his 9th studio album on November 21st. The album debuted at number 1 and was nominated for a Grammy for Best Rap Album. Finally, in gaming news, on November 19th, the Nintendo Wii was released in North America, priced at $249.99. By the end of the year, Nintendo had sold over 4 million consoles worldwide. Bum, 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 bum.
Is that music from the Wii?
Yes.
I never had a Wii.
Oof.
Oof.
They're fun for like 20 minutes. We'll be right back to talk about the episode.
All right.
It's a quick break. All right, we're back.
Okay, we're back.
You know, one of the things that occurred to me during the index, because we like to talk about how things have changed since the show, and even when we talk to Tony, one of the questions you have is about, has fandom changed since then, or since in his career?
Yeah.
Is that the Michael Richards thing? I just remember it being like, I don't remember seeing things recorded on cell phones, but really much before then.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I wonder how different that would have been,
right,
if there was reports of people. This guy says Michael Richards, this thing happened. It was so shocking to see. I wonder, that was people had been filming, things without permission or stuff like that, obviously, for years. But it felt like that was a bit of a turning point.
It's a really good point. I mean, I remember, because Wentworth got so famous so fast on the show, that I remember standing around someplace in Dallas shooting, and he was like, everybody who walks by has a camera now. And it was so unsettling. Like, we were shooting someplace where there was an office building, and he was like, people can be in those offices taking photos of us. And that was a real change, because before, when you'd run into a fan, it was just a totally different experience. First of all, usually they'd interact with you, as opposed to like walk up to you, take a selfie, and leave. And this was actually pre-selfie, because there weren't cameras that turned around. Right, you could fake it, but it would literally just like, I want to take a picture of your face. Yeah, it changed. It changed a lot, and you're right. I think that Michael Richards thing, because someone had the receipts, it became an undeniable correct. And also thing. And other people tone of it, like the rage, like all the, there's no like, oh, the context of this. Anyway, whatever. Yeah. Well, not whatever, but anyway. Okay, the show. So a big thing happens in this episode, an enormous thing, which is, and it's so many big things. And it's a narrative. It's a narrative, not a trope, but it is a narrative structure. It happens in a lot of movies. Happens in TV shows. We did it in Imposters. You get chased. Your lead characters get chased, and then they stop, and they say, "We're heading back in." Yes. Yes.
Right? We're going to go
Yeah.
to the source. And the thing that Aldo does by showing up is he's like, one, there's a tape that can exonerate you. And
Yep.
two, I sacrificed myself, maybe, and he may have misgivings about it, to this idea that this thing needed to be stopped. And suddenly, or maybe it's been brewing a little while, Lincoln and Michael are like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
Like this thing that is been so personal to us, it ruined, like Aldo's like, everything I did, your lives are like this because of me. You were abused in foster care. The company's trying to kill you, Lincoln. They're trying to get to me, all this stuff. They're like, we're not just in it for us. We're going to take this thing down. And suddenly it's become bigger than them. And it's changed their orientation to it and their motivation. And, from the very beginning, they've been trying to run.
Well, and it starts to feel like part of what leads them to that decision is this escalating collateral damage.
Yes, that's right.
They've lost their father.
He says too many, right?
Teabag is on the loose. Exactly. I mean, even
he says too many people have
Sarah
died trying to get you.
overdosed.
Yeah.
There's this sense, and he doesn't.
Kellerman's career is in the shitter now.
Kellerman's a ghost. I mean, I feel for that guy. And he doesn't even know about, C-Note's wife and things like that. But I think there is this sense that this was about my brother, but it's become about something
else
so big. And I feel so like there's so much blood on my hands. And you're right. I mean, it's also a brilliant way to drive the second half of a season because Mahone chasing Michael and Lincoln for 22 episodes.
Right.
Feels like that could get a little repetitive.
And it changes, it's important for on something serialized for characters' motivations to evolve. Right?
Yes.
It's still in the same, the kernel of the thing is the same. It's about family, it's about honor, it's about doing the right thing. But like you said, it gets more and more complicated. And instead of that complication just being complication, it has had a profound effect on both of them now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because even if you think about season 1, Michael made so many concessions to his own ethics.
Right.
In order to achieve the higher good. And it almost feels like, well, maybe there's a higher good above that.
And I think there is. I think
and there's atonement.
They're sitting at Aldo's grave, and he says, "Too many people have died. Me trying to get you free." And he had that thing about Teabag earlier in the season, which was really smart. Is like, and I think you're right. It's this idea of this is really horrible. There's something that we can do that might not make it all worthwhile, but is a higher purpose than just let's go live in Panama.
Well, and also recognizing that like Mahone is hunting everybody now. This isn't about I want to take you into custody. This is like Michael's done the math that Mahone is trying to kill everyone, which in some ways also changes the stakes of like if he's not stopped, he's gonna come after Sucre. He's gonna come after C-Note. He's there's something I think there that's also a motivator. It's a big pivot. And I cannot remember what happens in the next episode, which is the mid-season finale.
I can.
Okay, well, wait until next week. You want to talk about prosthetics? Because you and I both had some serious prosthetic acting in this episode.
So tell me about the prosthetic. So Sarah jumps through the windshield, and then you cut your arm, and you're going to sew it up yourself.
Yeah. And our amazing, it was Nono, the wonderful head of our makeup department, who did the prosthetic piece.
Yeah.
And, it's, look, they stick it to your skin. You really sew it up.
But
they've got a couple options. They've got a couple because once you stick a needle in it, it starts to look not great.
Right.
But the terror is that you stick the needle too far in.
Yeah.
And you hurt yourself.
And
did
you?
I did not, but as we were doing the rewatch, you were like, "Oh, I've got a story about this." When I was directing
Private Practice, and Stephen Amell, who went on to he had actually got cast in Arrow when we were shooting this episode of Private Practice.
Oh, wow.
And then he went on to Heels and all this stuff.
Okay.
He's just one of the. We had a great time. But he's a hot paramedic.
As you do.
As you do.
Sure.
And I think he had a thing with Brenneman's character. I don't remember. Anyway, he gets injured being a hero, and Tim Daly sews him up, and they put a big prosthetic on him.
Right.
And Tim's sewing him, towing him, and Steven goes, can we just, one sec? Oh, no, wait. I think it was after the take. They're like, cut, and he was like, yeah, you, he's like, oh, did I poke you? And he's like, no, you sewed the thing to my skin.
Oh, my God.
Like, he went through a couple times. First of all, I understand everyone feels pain. Steven looked like Michelangelo's David. You're like, how did you even get a needle to go through that muscle? But
Okay.
I remember the nurses had to come in and pull the string out.
So in the take,
Yeah.
as you're watching this as a director, are you like, ooh, he's acting this pain really well? Or did he just bury it?
He was, yeah. He wasn't he didn't look particularly more in pain than, they're supposed to have shot him up and whatever, but.
How was Tim Daly? Because, yes, I'm super sorry that Steven, that's terrible, but also, if I as an actor had done that to somebody, I would be like.
He was apologetic, but it was a pretty jolly. Yeah.
Sorry I sewed your skin too.
Yeah. I remember having a flashback to all that stuff when
Shit.
My child got really into Grey's Anatomy 5 years ago, and this happened to my niece too.
That's
I
funny,
think this is a
mine too.
wonderful thing. And then they want to be surgeons, and then you can
Yeah.
order these things from Amazon, these little sew kits.
Yep.
So
Yep.
cool.
My kid got one for Christmas
Yeah.
a couple of years ago. Yeah.
And my niece got it, and we were
loved
like,
it.
and my niece got it, and we were like, that's pretty weird for an 8-9-year-old to be doing. And then we were like, well, maybe they'll be a surgeon. And then 5 years later.
Your kid's going through it. It's a little bit like the Nintendo Wii. I remember it being fascinating for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it was like,
Yeah.
all right.
Question.
Wow. Yes.
Did we fly a jet?
Did we fly? I mean, not you and me personally, but it
it had to be.
it
Also,
really
I will say
looked
this. It
practical.
didn't look like a military jet. It looked like a Lear jet. It looked like a private jet. It looked like is
It's
there
Agent Kim, just
right?
like,
There's is there a billionaire up there that could go shoot down this Cessna?
what's Richard Branson doing right
exactly. But it was
it
definitely
really looked like it. If it wasn't, it was some of the best CG I've ever
No
seen
way.
from 2006.
No way it was that CG, and
That was
it wasn't
bonkers.
stock because the car's in the shot.
Yeah, I mean, you can composite it, but given how far down it comes.
It didn't look like it looked pretty practical to my very professional eye.
Okay, when we have Karen Gaviola on in season 3, because she
we'll
directed
ask.
season 3, we got to hold this question. If any fan out there has heard an interview with anyone who can answer this, please hit us up. This was sort of the Small Planes episode, in that there's the plane that Sucre ends up taking on his own. There's a nice callback to the very end of season 1, where Michael and Lincoln are on a runway watching a plane leave, except this time it's intentional. I assume that's Nick Santora and Karen Usher being really great writers and being like, oh, this will be cool. But as we were doing it, you made that face. You were like,
Oh no, I've been on them a lot.
Yeah. I was fine with small planes
Until
I went skydiving. And I was tandem skydiving.
And you're like, it's so easy to fall out of this thing.
No, I was tandem skydiving, which means the guy who was the skydiving instructor that I was strapped to made the decision about when we exited the plane, which meant that my experience of skydiving felt like being thrown out of a
Cannot
plane.
shake my head any harder without hurting myself. No.
I never had a problem ever
No.
in small planes. And ever since, it comes and goes, but sometimes I'll just be like,
Like the randomness of I could just, yeah.
somebody could just, because it's that feeling of the door opens and everything inside you goes, nope, 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 ah! And then you're going. And I got to the bottom. And my husband had jumped right after me. Well, had been jumped right after me. And we both like get out of our thing. And at the exact same time, we're walking towards each other in the landing area. And he goes, "Wasn't that amazing?" And I was like, I am never doing that again.
It does not appeal to me.
Very, very different experience.
I'm not a scaredy cat either. Just one of those things where like the potential for regret seems very high.
Well, and just all the billion years of evolution screaming in every one of your DNA.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? Like, we did all of this to get you here, and you're gonna what?
Right.
Like, no, it's nuts. You said something about the scene where you were on the phone to the president.
I had like a 4 a.m. call time because they wanted to shot it in the dark.
At like 5 a.m.
At like 5 a.m. because it was a nighttime shot, and they put it at the beginning of the day.
It's a wild.
It was my only work of the day. Got there at 4. We shot it at 5. It was like two setups. Right, they're gonna lose the light at 5:40, and then I go to the makeup trailer and I take off my thing and I'm like I go home and I'm like in bed like,
what do I do?
Like I just worked. Like I went back to sleep. I got up at like 10 and I was like, was that a dream? Like it was such a strange feeling to be like that was I'm done.
And you are not a morning person.
No, I'm not.
No. But also you can't tell, which is kind of cool.
No, I mean,
But it's a big deal of a scene, right? Like it's the scene where Kellerman realizes he's been erased.
Yeah, and also
and all of your years of service. Actually, that's interesting. I didn't think about this. There's a parallel in some ways to Aldo.
I was gonna and to the boys.
All your years of service. Yeah.
Because it's I don't want to spoiler alert, but what Kellerman is deciding to do in that moment is go into the fray.
Right.
So
you just made the wrong enemy.
Kind of that thing, yeah.
Right.
I also wanted to tell the story that when you burn me, we had a discussion. For some reason, I remember it being Greg. But maybe I'm confusing Greg with Bobby, who might have been operating the camera.
Maybe.
But Greg Yatanis
who
directed the previous episode, and it's because it's the same action. And Karen picked up this action of the burning and you jumping up. Is that we had a discussion about whether Kellerman, even with all his training, etc., would not scream in that way.
Oh, right.
That there would be whatever the reaction is, that it would be something, there's this whole thing about Secret Service guys actually training their neurology to react differently. Like if you hear a loud noise, they go out as opposed to get in.
Right.
All that kind of thing.
Right.
I thought maybe he'd be more stoic about it. I don't know, maybe it's not the right word. And we said, well, let's do it both ways. And I did it most of the time by kind of like grunting, and it was like a stifle. It was like the beginning of a scream and a stifle.
Okay. Yeah.
And we really liked that. And then we were doing this handheld thing, and I did that a few times. And then I guess it was Karen, the director, I thought, was like, we just need to get the scream so we have it.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And they're like, we're not going to use it though. So just like give a huge scream, like the biggest scream you can do for audio. And I was like, okay, but why's the...
Right.
This is where my maybe greenness, a little green.
Yeah.
And then, I don't regret it. I think it's a kind of a interesting, to see him freak out like that.
It is
pretty upsetting.
It's interesting because both Kellerman and Michael become not unhinged, but you see them not in control and in a very new way in this episode. In an unusual way, and a way that makes clear that like we are not in Kansas anymore. The stakes are changing.
There's a great thing in drama
Drama.
in drama, which I understand, which I always think about the Arthurian legend, which is like the thing of like the metaphor, even though it works in the plot, of a wound being something that is like symbolic of a character's change. Like Kellerman's never the same.
I've never heard that before. A wound being
like it's like symbolic. It happens
no,
like
it makes sense.
it's in so like in Chinatown, like he gets his nose cut, and it's like this wound that he for the rest of the like it's there's a lot of times there's like the in a hero journey thing. It's because it's like evidence of the cost.
You're carrying it forever. Yeah.
And you're carrying it forever, and you have to heal it. And there was this whole thing of Lancelot's wound, and Arthur being sick and having to find the Grail, but it was his wound. Lancelot's wound was the wound of guilt, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, it's interesting that, I mean, it works always. Of course, it works literally because he's not going to be the same because he's getting screwed by Kim, he's screwed up with Sarah. But yeah, I just thought, I never thought of it that way before. It's one of those things as an actor, you don't need to think about it. Well, it's also interesting that he's going to kill her.
He's 100% going to kill her.
Which I think is great for him as a character. I think it's to have softened him enough to say, oh, I like her, I'm going to let her go. I don't like it's great that he gets tricked. And it's great that he's going to reluctantly do it, but do it.
Well,
because then when Kim blames him, he's like, fuck you, I was going to do it.
Well, but what's interesting is he's going to do it, but he's not going to do it. He doesn't want to watch. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's going to set it up, walk out of the room, come back in, clean up the dead body. Like,
I mean, he has a gun with a silencer, and he chooses not to use it.
Absolutely. And what I thought was interesting, and actually I loved that a meal was not made of it because it became really subtle, and I love the way you did it, is that you've got your hands over your ears. And which is an interesting character tell in a way, which is like he doesn't want to hear if the door is knocking. He's turned off. Like all of a sudden you realize like, oh, the TV was on as much for him as for anyone else. I don't want to hear this. Which I think is
I think that's right. And I don't remember what the discussion was about. I think it was because of the well,
because otherwise you'd hear the tub draining.
Well, it was that, but it was also he doesn't want to hear her.
Yeah.
He wants to cover it up for the other patrons, but also he doesn't want to listen to whatever's going on.
Right. Which is, he's like, hey, I really don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it.
But I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Do you remember having to get the chain? And
I remember it taking a long time. And I think eventually somebody had to hold it up. Because a chain falls against the side of the thing. Yeah. And I was like, what am I going to right. So I think eventually somebody had to hold the chain so it looked like it was floating.
Do you think Karen shot that, or did you shoot it? Do you remember? Like, was it part of the previous, like, where there's like, okay, another day in the tank?
I don't
remember.
You do it all at
once? Yeah, I don't remember either.
There's a part of me that wonders if, like, maybe did we do it the last day? And they did that director switch thing where it's like, okay, Greg's going to shoot his stuff up until lunch. And then Karen, what I do know is that was the first female director I had ever had, except for some commercials. I had a commercial contract with a company, and weirdly, it was very early in my career, and it was a female director. And so I didn't quite think of the fact that was so rare at the time. And then Karen rolls up and I'm like, whoa, this is new. But I don't remember. I remember it being a pain in the butt to get that thing. And especially like I wear contacts. I think I had to take them out so that they wouldn't like float off my eyes. And I was like, hey guys, so the funny thing is I am dead blind. So gonna need a little help here.
Really? Yeah, for real. I don't think I knew that you wore contacts.
Oh, yeah. I've had terrible vision since I was in 4th grade. Like, terrible. But, I remember really in that sequence, the things that I wanted to sell were get your bag, get the keys because they matter. But also, like, you better be panicked and you better be, do you know what I mean? Like I remember there being a conversation because I was like, should I just grab the keys because I know that that's what he's after
Oh, I remember this conversation.
and stick them in my pocket? And they were like, we'd like you to have a bag because then you can pull stuff out of it later. And it's like, you can have money, you can have an ID, you can.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
having a Mary Poppins bag in a show like this
Yeah.
is super, super helpful.
We don't know what we don't know what's in there, but anything we need.
It's big enough that we can pull anything out of there or hide something in it or whatever. And so that was a little bit of a thing. And I thought Karen shot it really well because it didn't look like a big deal. And then I really wanted it to feel like the jump out of the window was terrifying. Like it was super
It looked
important to me that
terrifying.
Sarah never looked like a superhero, never looked like I've done this before.
It doesn't.
And they did a great job with that. And the stunt woman who did that jump did such a good job of like starting and then turning her body
Yep.
so
And the
that
wig
you
is,
could
like,
use the whole fall
Yeah,
shot.
it's amazing.
And
Then putting a camera in the car is tremendous.
I will say that the Michael Schofield origin story of I was an abused kid in the foster system and spent so much time in the dark that I started seeing details and I started seeing the way things fit together and I started learning how to escape. It is kind of wonderful because that's actually not the point of the scene. The point of the scene is
That's right.
then this man came to save me.
That's right.
And I thought that was lovely, like really well done to layer those two things together and to give us a sense of like, oh, it's the broken parts of you that are high functioning and helping you get your brother out of this. And you wouldn't have that part of your personality if your father hadn't left, and you might not have survived it if he hadn't come back. Like there's something I think that's really beautiful about it. I thought it was a terrific episode. Yeah. You want to talk to Tony about it?
Yeah. Let's take a break and then we'll be back with Tony Denison. Okay, we're back.
We're back.
All right. We're going to introduce Tony Denison, who played Aldo Burrows, Michael Lincoln's father. The closer, he was on the closer for 108 episodes, and then the spin-off of the closer for 105. That's 213 episodes of the same character. His career going back in the 80s when he had a leading role in Crime Story, one of the formative series in my life growing up, Michael Mann's show.
Was it really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I loved it. That and Hill Street Blues.
Awesome.
He's done too many things to list here, but it is worth mentioning he played a character named Westmoreland in the original Walker, Texas Ranger. Here's our interview with Tony.
Thank you for coming to...
We just watched your demise
Yes.
in episode 212.
Well, I'm a methadone actor, so I had them really shoot me. But
they did.
I got over the wound pretty quick, though.
Fair enough.
I believe one of your first appearances on the show, besides being in the execution room, in the viewing room, was hitting me in the head with a fire extinguisher.
Yes.
On the road. Yes, it was an
I
enjoyable
wanted
day
to
of
really
work.
hit you, but they said that I couldn't do it.
Because I'm not a methadone actor.
You're a methadone actor. So
I'm just like a song and dance man. I was like, you can't.
He's really a musical theater guy.
Yeah, musical theater guy.
That's just
I'm like, you can't hit me with that thing.
Can I just let me start? You've obviously had a huge career. When somebody says Prison Break, when you hear, hey, a couple of idiots want to talk to you about this show, like what comes to mind for you? What has stuck over the years?
Well, I'm kind of used to that. I have two kind of cult followings, three actually, but the two that are the most important was one is Crime Story, which gave me my big break.
Sure.
That was.
Yep.
I had none. I was sucking eggs before that in New York.
Are you from Chicago?
No, I'm from Harlem, New York.
But that was shot in
That
Chicago.
was Chicago, yeah. I got cast out of New York, and you know, they didn't know what to make of me. I had no credits. I mean, I had no footage, nothing. I mean, just mostly theater.
Yeah.
And but so anyway, so I get people coming up to me now. That show is off the air since 1988,
Right.
and I have people come up to me. They go, oh, Luca, hey, his character's name was Luca. They go, Luca, and some of them, I think, you seem like you were probably like 8 or 9 years old when it was on the. Yeah, it was. I was. But my dad loved the show, and it's like the times that I got to sit and watch TV with my dad was watching that show.
Wait, P.S. Is that on the streamer anywhere?
Oh yes, I think it's on Amazon.
Okay. So there's still new people coming to that show.
There's 2 years of it, and I mean, I'm telling you. The kudos I get on the street from people from that are insane.
And that was a Michael Mann show, right?
Michael Mann.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It was.
And it was Dennis Farina.
God rest his soul. Yeah.
God rest his soul.
Dennis was Dennis and I, and then the other part of we were all sort of guys from a place called the Patch in Chicago.
Yeah.
Was Stephen Lang.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
So the 3 of us were sort of like the main guys in it, and then. And he was like Dennis. Obviously, was the cop. I was the mob guy, and Stephen was the lawyer that sort of had a foot in both because his father was a former wise guy or numbers runner kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he was a lawyer, and it was cool. But I just got to say, one of the cool episodes on that show was we had Miles Davis come on.
I remember.
Because he's from Chicago.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking. This is before cell phones and something. And fucking God, Miles, take pictures, please. I don't know where those pictures are. But I said Miles Davis and Steven, the one thing that I'm so jealous of him because he plays a little saxophone. He got to play saxophone with Miles Davis playing horn, and I'm thinking,
wow.
I said, how did your head not explode? He goes, Tony, because you have no idea.
I cannot
You have no
imagine.
idea how nervous I was playing
What a
with Miles
gift.
Davis. Yeah. And then the other show is this show. I get people come up to me all the time. They go, "Hey, Aldo," and I was like, "What?
Really?
Oh, you're right." And
Wow.
And they go, "How come you weren't on the show more?" And I said, "Well, I was doing the closer at the time, and it was really hard to travel to Chicago and travel to Texas."
I wondered. So they did overlap.
Oh yeah, every episode.
Okay. I wasn't sure if Closer started right after you left Prison Break, but no.
No, Closer. I started the Closer in 2005.
Okay.
And then that went all the way. Then when it became Major Crimes, I think I might even been. I think it was like between both shows, but Major Crimes ended in 2017. So we were on that for like 14 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
But but it was nice because I got the chance to go back to Chicago to do the Prison Breaks, and then you guys. Then when we moved to Texas, you moved to Texas. I came there a couple of times.
And what was it like for you? Like Paul and I talk a lot about, we all kind of were on different shows, right? Because there were so many different storylines.
Yeah.
And like, for instance, I never worked with you.
No.
You were in the viewing room.
I don't even think we were on the call sheet at the same time.
Well, there might have been the viewing room scene in season 1, but it was literally like, you were basically a ghost.
Right.
What was your show like? Like, you show up, you've got to create this fully baked relationship, right, with these 2 boys.
Yeah, I have a question about that actually, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'd never met any of these guys, but I don't think the only person I knew briefly for a minute, I think, was Stacy Keach. I had met him once or twice before, but didn't work with him, so I didn't know anybody on the show. And both the first couple episodes I didn't work with Wentworth. I worked with oh my God, I just went
Dominic.
Dominic. I worked with Dominic. So so he was very nice. He was a nice kid, and I call him he is a kid to me. And I had a good time with him. The stuff I did with him, and then when we got to Texas, then I got to work with both of them, and I had a really good time. And and I wanted it to do more, but then they, it just got to the point where they said this is a little crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's
schedule-wise.
If it was shot in Los Angeles or anywhere nearby, I'm sure I could have done more episodes. Because my biggest regret is like after the fact, they tell me they cast Kathleen Quinlan as my wife.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, I've loved her I've mad cinematic crush on that woman.
Yeah.
Since like 1980, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking,
Yeah, she's a giant.
I said, no, can't we work this out? They said, well, you're dead. I said, well, so what? People die all the time. I mean, they come back to life. Maybe they found
Yep.
some secret cure or something.
Yeah, we
you
both
know.
know that. We both came back to life.
Maybe
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was a cyborg that got killed. I mean,
Yeah.
they said no, you
Right.
can't come back.
Tony, when you come into something like Prison Break and you're like, you're supposed to have this. I mean, you didn't know Wentworth as a kid, but Dom, you did, and you've had this relationship with him. How do you do anything particular to prepare yourself to have, this 30-year relationship with people, or do you roll with it? Is it, I know some people, want to spend time together. They want to get to know him. They want to invent this backstory for themselves. And some people just kind of are like, nope, it's all going to be there right on the day.
Yeah, no, I don't know how. I mean, my acting. I had 2 acting coaches in my life. Bill Hickey, remember him from Prizzi's Honor? Of
course, yeah.
Hickey,
Yeah.
And I mean, God knows in so many other movies, but that one a lot of people know.
Yeah,
And Julie
William Hickey.
Bavasso, John Travolta's mom in Saturday Night Fever.
Oh,
They
wow.
were my 2 coaches. And basically, what I learned from both of them, not sense memory kind of stuff, but I would just connect to certain things, and then I would envelop that person into it and somehow put their face on whatever generic person I was using or persons that I was using, and then I would stay connected to that. And then I would find little surprises, like hidden secrets. That, like the one thing was he lived around the corner from when I was living in Park Slope. He lived in Park Slope. I didn't know that, and so we had that to talk about.
Wentworth,
And,
yeah.
So, I don't know. I just I don't know how I don't know how I work it. I just get this feeling that comes on me, and I stay connected to that feeling. Which not to. This is sort of like a segue, but it's not a non sequitur, I don't think. But I'm sober like 32 years, and so what happens for me? I used to worry that when I got sober, that I was going to not be able to connect to the, because when I used to, on Crime Story, I used to listen to the Rolling Stones, Street Fighting Man, and
Right.
all the Let It Bleed album, and and Give Me Shelter, but then after that, I said, am I going to be able to connect to those? Then when I got sober, I connected to them so quickly, I couldn't wait for them to yell cut.
Right.
To get the hell out of it and just start telling jokes or telling stories about baseball or something. So it was easy. It was easier. I don't know how. I guess it also helps that they were great guys to work with.
Yep.
Because sometimes you have to find this love and this
Yeah.
deep internal love for somebody who might be an a-hole. But
Yeah.
and luckily I've only worked with 1 or 2 people where I'd say, man, why don't you get out of the business? You seem so friggin' unhappy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
What are
You know how many
doing here?
millions of people would trade places with you like that?
Yep.
Yep.
So
It's interesting. We Lane Garrison, who played Tweener, was on the show a couple of weeks back, and he said something very similar about getting sober. That there's that concern that what if this is a big part of my process, and it's the opposite. That all of a sudden there's a level of availability and
it's like I say I live between the words action and cut.
Yeah.
And when they say action, I don't know where I go. I go someplace, especially if it's a dark character or anger is the preeminent theme in the scene. I don't know how I get there specifically, but I get there, and I get there with such ferocity and verve that when they yell cut, I go, okay, hey, so anyway, how about them Yankees,
Yeah.
and can it just drop away
Yeah.
when you're done? Do you have to do anything to kind of let that go, or it's just
not
programming?
No. Maybe that's why I'm not working the past couple of years. No.
Nobody's worked in the past couple of
nobody's
years.
worked.
Isn't it weird?
Take it easy.
The other day I was telling my wife, I said, sometimes when the phone doesn't ring for a while, it hurts. It really, because I just love it
Because
so
you
much.
love it.
Yeah.
And it's not it's not a selfish love. It's I want to give. I want to give to the scene. That's one of the keys for me in my acting is what can I bring to this thing? Not what can I take from it. What can I bring to it?
Yep.
So.
Yeah. It's
How'd
hard.
you end up?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, please. I was just going to add my yes, agreed. it's hard to do something that you can't also. I mean, you can do scene work and you can go to class, but it's not like being on a set
tough.
or on a stage.
If you're a musician, you can sit home practice your guitar
that's right.
or piano,
that's right.
or you're a dancer or a singer.
That's right.
You know, but when you're an actor, so what I try to do, and I don't do it as much as I used to, is what I sometimes. This is gonna laugh. I'll get like a Shakespeare play.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, with my sort of East Coast, flavor and my accent, it's hard for me to get cast doing Shakespeare. But I intimately know all of his pieces, and a lot of times I'll read some of his stuff to myself out loud, and then I'll read it like with a funny accent, or I'll read it like it's a joke. Like I'll do the beginning of Richard III, like he's telling his joke. Let me tell you, now is the winter of our and I'll do it like just to have fun with it, so that I can have just riff on the stuff. And that's what I try to do, and because when they're waiting for them to call you up and hire you, it could be a while sometimes.
Yeah, you gotta exercise that muscle.
You gotta,
or at least
our whole thing is our whole thing is the instrument.
Yeah.
Our whole head to toe is our instrument.
Yep.
So we got to keep it in some kind of shape. And but I find when I do that with the Shakespeare stuff, or maybe I might even read portions of Dickens or Mark Twain. And I'll read them like, kind of like goofy, or I'll read them like really serious, or I'll just read them with some kind of, malicious intent, whatever.
Yeah. Like invent a motivation even, like for one of those things, and like use it.
Yeah. But Shakespeare's the most fun to do. Not Chekhov, not so much, though I like Chekhov a lot. But Shakespeare is like
Chekhov's tough to do alone.
Yeah, I mean he's already depressed out of his mind anyway.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to bring us back real quick. A couple questions about Aldo, because there was a fan question from a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Somebody asked about thoughts on Aldo as a father. And I'm asking partly because, like, in the last generation, our expectations of fatherhood have really changed. Like, I mean, I'm Gen X. As far as the fathers in my generation seemed to feel like if the kid's alive and fed, dude, job done. That was it. And that was great. But like, what do you think of him as a dad? Obviously, he abandoned his sons.
Yeah,
he did it because of something he believed in.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
how do you feel about him?
Humphrey Bogarted his family, Rick Blaine his family. No, I had a tough time with that. But I guess at the end of the day, like what I was thinking about with my character was there was a far greater cause to protect my children and everybody else's children from the forces to be, and so that's tough. But when I got a chance to get back with them again, that's what I played. That like finally I'm back with them and they're alive, and and that's it. And I will die for them, which he winds up doing anyway. And I mean, today, I unfortunately, I don't have any children. My wife and I are trying. She's younger than me, so hopefully that'll happen. But we have our cats and our dog, and literally, I'm a pretty calm, reserved kind of guy. But you make a move on my family, and you think, where the hell did this lunatic come from?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I make no regrets. I have no regrets, no excuses for nothing. I mean, it's like that's it. And if you're a dear friend of mine, I'm Sicilian, so I'll go to the mattresses for my family and my friends.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, we have one more. We have time for one more question for you. It's a question we ask all our guests this year, and it's on theme for this year's show. If you and your wife had to drop everything and go into hiding somewhere, so that they couldn't find, the bad guys couldn't find you, where are you guys going?
She would very reluctantly come along with me to Sicily.
It's a good place to go.
That's where I'd like to go. When I first went there to visit, I felt like I really believe in DNA, because when I landed in Catania, I thought to myself, I've never been here before, but I feel like I know exactly what's down that road, and so just there was a connection. And so I would definitely want to go back I'd go to Sicily again.
Great.
And I don't know if you've ever been there.
I have.
Never.
You have?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really special place, Sicily. I mean, not Italy is like the whole of Italy is wonderful for me.
I fell in love. I absolutely loved Sicily. I just
Yeah, I
was
mean,
just
and it's
totally
like
taken.
of the five-star hotels that they have in the entire country, 2 of them are in Sicily. So just
Really?
and it's not a big place. It's like 150 miles across.
Yeah.
And so it's something about it. For me, I would love to go. I'd love to go to Sicily. I'd like to go to Sicily, and also the topography and the climate to some degree very similar to Southern California.
Cool.
Very similar.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
man.
coming.
It's so
and
good seeing you.
I don't know if
Showing
you
thoughts.
answered. I asked, and I don't remember. Where are you guys broadcasting from?
I'm in LA.
Oh,
and
you're in LA.
And she's in British Columbia.
Yeah, I live in BC.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we moved up here, 17, 18 years ago. So I'm in my basement and he's at his house, and we just kind of have a chance to connect with folks. It's really been lovely, like sharing memories of the show and talking about what it meant to people. This has been beautiful, and
So
thank
you're
you
in
so much for being a
Vancouver?
part
You're
of
in
it.
Vancouver?
I'm outside of Vancouver. I'm kind of out in the woods.
I liked Vancouver when the few times I've filmed there. Toronto I liked a lot, but again,
Toronto's great.
But the winters is just like, what are you, nuts? I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it's
No more of that.
Yeah, 4
got
months a
hit-
year. Toronto's amazing.
I got hit with one of those like breezes that came up off the lake one time. when I
Oh,
was-
forget
I
it.
thought,
Nope.
Forget it.
Oh my God!
It's like
So-
Chicago. Do you know
So
what I
I,
mean?
call,
Like
I
all
called
of
up
a
the
sudden.
wardrobe place and I said, I obviously didn't pack the right kind of coats. And he said, well, what kind of coat you want to have? And I said, when I put it on, I feel like it's
Fur.
July.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
It's
You can be
fine.
naked-
I would
you
like
can-
a buffalo
I want to
hide.
be
Yeah,
naked
they sent
under
me
it and
something
be
that it was
warm.
Like, oh, and the
Make
rest
me
of the
sweat.
time it was. That's when I
100%.
learned the expression. There's no such thing as improper bad weather. It's just improper clothing.
That's kind of true.
That's the motto of Canada, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the motto of Canada.
Nice people up there. Nice people. So obviously,
you.
obviously,
appreciate it.
You added to the number.
We're grateful. We don't want to be American, but I think we could afford that. Hey, listen, thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank you so much.
It
It's
was
good-
such a joy to see you.
Really good seeing you. We hope to see you
And,
soon.
Yeah, continued
road.
success. I
Yeah.
look forward to seeing your handsome face on whatever it is they're lucky enough to get you for next.
Well, thank you. Right back at you times 10.
All right, good to see you.
Amazing. Amazing.
God bless.
Ciao, Tony.
Ciao.
Okay,
He's great.
we're back. Yeah, he's great.
He's so great.
Yeah,
And interesting.
he's a character.
Well, and interesting to hear that, like, were he not on The Closer, which was such a huge, successful show, we might have gotten more of him. Do you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
it was like kind of a scheduling challenge that led to him leaving the show.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder if there's additional. Tell you what, if there's anybody out there that wants to write additional fan fiction about what would have happened if
Yeah, if they
Aldo
all teamed
Burrows
up. If they teamed up.
had stayed around, maybe even picked up LJ.
Ooh.
Yeah, they could have started a law firm called Burrows, and Schofield. Sorry, you'll write better fan fiction. Let's just do the credits. What do you think?
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks for being with us.
yeah. Thanks for
I'm
being.
excited about next week.
Yeah, mid-season finale next week.
You know what I forgot to tell you?
What's that?
Prison Breaking with Sarah and Paul is a Caliber Studio production.
Wait, do you want to do the thank you for listening? We invite you to subscribe or no?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Uh,
What did you forget to tell me, Paul?
I forgot to tell you that we were going to invite all our listeners and watchers to join our watch party episodes. You can watch the show live with us as we comment on it. And we all also have some, oh God. I was going to tell you guys that we want to invite you to subscribe to our Patreon, which is in the show notes of wherever you're listening right now. That'll give you access to bonus content, the watch party episodes where you can watch along with us each episode that we talk about. There's some fan fiction back there that's pretty amazing. Us reading it together, that we've reading it live, which is pretty funny. Yeah, you're blushing already because of what it is.
Some of it's hard to read.
Yeah, so join our Patreon community, please. And also,
And if you are,
pocket and a mug.
oh yeah, the merch is available on a link
Yep.
in our Instagram. I made
Yeah.
sure that that's the
Yes.
case. And if you're on YouTube right now, thanks for joining us on video in whatever language the
Yeah.
translation function is giving you.
So great.
We're glad you guys are here. It's super fun. And also, Prison Breaking with Sarah and Paul is a Caliber Studio production.
And your hosts have been inmates Sarah Wayne Callies and Paul Adelstein.
Our prison warden is producer Ben Haber.
Frontman of our Jailhouse Rock Band is yours truly, Paul Adelstein.
Our prison yard tattoo artist, logo, and brand designer is John Nunziato and Little Big Brands. Check them out at www.littlebigBrands.com.
And follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Prison Break Podcast. Email us at pbpodcast@caliber-studio.com and call us at 401-3-P-Break.
Prison Breaking with Sarah and Paul has been a Caliber Studio production. Thanks for listening or watching.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.